Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a secret weapon for anyone who has to present information, especially data. It's the power of a great story. Because, let's be real, most data-heavy presentations don't actually persuade anyone. They just put people to sleep. Today, we're going to fix that.
You know that feeling, right? You're maybe 20 slides in, you're looking at yet another super dense chart, and it suddenly hits you. You have absolutely no idea what the main point is. All you feel is just the weight of all that data crushing you.
Look, if that sounds familiar, I promise you, you are so not alone. It's an incredibly common feeling, and it's because there's this fundamental misunderstanding of what it really takes to change someone's mind.
This whole feeling, it actually has a name. We can call it the data dump dilemma, and it's the exact problem we're going to unpack and solve right now.
Okay, so for any smart, analytical person, the instinct is to walk the audience through your work, step by logical step. First, we looked at this, and then that led us to analyze this, which brought us to this conclusion. It feels so logical, right? But here's the thing. This approach is just, well, it's fundamentally flawed. It doesn't persuade people, it just documents your work.
So why? Why does this fail? I mean, even the most brilliant analysis can land with a thud if it's just presented as a checklist of things you did. To get it, we really need to look at what's going on in our brains. And here it is in a nutshell. On the left, you've got this analysis as story idea. It's basically a diary of your work. It's a flat line. There's no tension, no real payoff. But look at the right, a true narrative. It has a shape. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It introduces a problem, builds up some tension, and then bam, it gives us a satisfying resolution. That's what our brains are wired for.
Now, this whole thing usually goes wrong in a couple of key ways. First, we fall into the trap of telling a so-called data-driven story. That's where we just let whatever data we happen to find dictate the narrative, instead of us deciding on the most important story first. And second, and this is a big one, we forget who the protagonist is. In any persuasive setting, your audience, your client, your boss, they're the hero. Your analysis is just the cool, magical sword you're handing them to go slay the dragon.
So how do we build that real narrative? How do we avoid those pitfalls? Well, the answer is a single, powerful discipline that honestly changes everything. It's what this whole explainer is really about, the Storyboard Imperative.
And let's be absolutely crystal clear on what a storyboard is. It has nothing to do with fancy graphics or slide design. Think of it as the architectural blueprint for your argument. It is the story written out before you even dream of opening PowerPoint or Keynote. It's the whole narrative, just stripped down to its bare, essential bones. I love this analogy. Just think about it. A film director would never just show up on set and start shooting a bunch of random scenes, hoping they can stitch them together into a coherent movie later. No way. Of course not. They start with a script. They start with a storyboard. They make sure every single shot serves the bigger story. We have to bring that exact same discipline to our presentations.
Okay, so that's the what and the why. Now let's get to the best part, the how. How do you actually sit down and craft one of these compelling stories?
The process is actually refreshingly simple. There are really just 4 steps. Step 1, write the gist. This is your elevator pitch, just the 5 to 7 most critical messages. Step 2, you develop those into clear declarative headlines, a single sentence for each key point. Step 3, you sequence those headlines. You arrange them into a flow that makes sense and feels compelling. And then finally, step 4, for each headline, you just sketch out the one piece of evidence, the single killer chart that proves your point. That's it.
Now, for the structure of that story, here's a super powerful framework. It's called the deficit model. You start with the problem, the burning platform, something that creates real urgency. Then you explain the cause of that problem. Then you present your solution, your recommendations, and you end with a really compelling vision of the future. And if that structure sounds kind of familiar, it's because this entire explainer has been following that exact model.
As you're building your storyboard, you have to be tough. You have to be ruthless. For every single headline, you have to ask yourself one simple question. So what? If the answer isn't immediately obvious and really important to your audience, that slide has no business being in your story. You gotta cut it.
And here's the ultimate test of whether your story is clear. I call it the hallway test. Could you grab a coworker in the hallway, read them only the headlines from your storyboard, and have them totally get the entire story in less than 2 minutes? If the answer is no, your story just isn't tight enough yet. You've got to go back and keep refining.
When you master this process, you really do transform. You go from being someone who just gives presentations to being a master persuader. You become someone who tells stories that actually drive real, meaningful action. So, how do you make this a real habit? First, make storyboarding a mandatory, non-negotiable first step for you and your team. Second, spend a ton of your time just getting the headlines right. They're that important. Third, put the storyboard up on a wall somewhere. Make it physical so everyone is literally on the same page. And finally, you have to embrace a less is more philosophy. Be ruthless.
At the end of the day, this is the fundamental shift in your mindset. Your goal is not to get through your slides. It's not to deliver a presentation. Your one and only goal is to tell a story so clear and so compelling that it persuades your audience to act. That's it. That's the entire game.
Every single set of data has a story hiding inside of it, just waiting to be told. The only real question left is, are you ready to be the one to tell it?